Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to all of you in this first recorded lecture for the week number 6. And the contents of this week presentation are the spontaneous potential log and the introduction to resistivity log. Spontaneous potential log is also called the self potential log, and the presentation has been made from the chapter number 5 and chapter number 6 of your textbook. So let's start the presentation with the SP log, and the most important use of this SP log is the identification of the permeable zone. And we know that identification of the permeable zone is the basic and the important task of a petrophysicist, because we know that one of the condition for being a reservoir is that reservoir should have the permeability. Since the reservoir has the permeability, it can produce hydrocarbons at a commercial and economical rates. So identification of the permeability is the important task of a petrophysicist. And basically we have seen that we can also identify the permeable zone through the caliper log. And we have seen that whenever the caliper log shows that the actual hole size is lower than the bit size, it's basically the indication of the mud cake presence. And we have seen that mud cake only forms against the permeable zone. So whenever you have the mud cake, actual hole size as shown by the caliper is lower than the bit size, and that particular presence of mud cake indicates that this zone is the permeable zone. What about the absence of mud cake? We have seen that when a mud cake is not present, we cannot say that this zone is impermeable zone. So absence of mud cake is not related to the impermeability of the formation. So how basically we will guess about the permeability when we do not have the mud cake present? So the permeability of that zone basically is calculated or estimated through the SP log. So the basic task or basic responsibility of the SP log is the identification of the permeability of any depth. And this log is an example of the spontaneous measurement, because in this tool we do not have any source, which means we are not bombarding anything. The tool is measuring the natural response of the formation, and in this tool basically we are measuring the natural or the spontaneous potential difference that exists between the borehole and the surface in the absence of any artificially applied current. In short, basically in this tool we are measuring the natural current that is being generated in the reservoir because of the difference of salinity between the mud and the formation water. So basically we are measuring the natural current or the natural spontaneous potential, and the tool only has a detector which basically measures this natural current, which is obviously very small. So the unit of SP log is millivolt, because we are measuring the current in terms of the voltage. So basically the unit of the SP log is millivolt. The unit is very small because the natural current that is being generated in the borehole is very small. And basically the tool is very simple, and it requires only an electrode in the borehole and a reference electrode at the surface. So this is basically the graphical representation of this SP tool. Two electrodes, one in the borehole, and other electrode is grounded at surface, and basically you are measuring the voltage difference between these two electrodes, and this electrode that is in the borehole is moving, and basically it is measuring the natural voltage against each formation. And this natural voltage is being developed in the reservoir because of the migration of ions that we will see in the coming slides. So again you can see basically you have two electrodes. One is fixed, that is grounded, the M2, and M1 is moving in the borehole, and as you can see against the impermeable formation you do not have any deflection, which shows that it does the impermeable formation does not have any current, and against the permeable formation you have the deflection, which means that you have some sort of current. in the permeable formation. So that is why this tool, the SP tool, is a useful tool to identify the permeable zone in a given borehole section. This SP log has four main uses: the detection of the permeable beds, the determination of RW. The second important use is the detection of RW, and RW is the resistivity of the water, whether it is cunate water or the free water in the aquifer. And once basically we have calculated RW through SP log, we can use this RW to calculate SW. Basically an equation which is called the Archie equation. This Archie equation links the RW to SW. So by measuring RW through SP log, we calculate SW through Archie equation, and once we have calculated the SW, which is the saturation of water, we can calculate the saturation of hydrocarbons, because we know that sum of the saturations is equal to 1. So 1 minus SW will be equal to the saturation of hydrocarbons. So by measuring the RW through SP log, we measure the SW and ultimately measure the saturation of hydrocarbons. And once we have the saturation of hydrocarbon, we can calculate the initial hydrocarbons in place. For that we need porosity and area and formation volume factor. So in other words, this SP log can help you in the calculation of the hydrocarbon in place. So this is an important use of the SP log. The third important use is that this log can help you to calculate the volume of shale. Basically, we have seen that we can also calculate volume of shale through gamma ray log, and we know the formula that volume of shale through gamma ray log is equal to gamma ray log minus gamma ray minimum divided by gamma ray maximum minus gamma ray minimum. So by knowing the minimum and the maximum gamma ray values and the gamma ray values at that particular depth, we can calculate the volume of shale. And again, that is basically is also an efficient way to calculate volume of shale. But you can also calculate volume of shale through SP log. We will see the formula in the coming slides. So you calculate volume of shale independently, one from the gamma ray log, another from the SP log, and you compare the two values. So if two values are closer to each other, which means that your approach is correct, and you can rely on these number that is given to you by volume by the gamma ray log or the SP log. But if the two numbers are different, which means that something is wrong and you need to go back and correct your basically calculation. So the first use is the permeable zone identification, the second use is the RW calculation, the third use is the volume of shale calculation, and the fourth use is correlation. And we know that correlation is also very important. If you have 4 or 5 or many wells in a given formation, so you want to basically know the tops of each lithologies in each well. So SP log basically can give you and can provide you this information that for example, the sandstone in this well is at this depth, and similarly the sandstone in this well is at this depth. So the sequence of lithology of different wells in a given formation can be correlated through the SP log. It is always plotted on track number 1 with gamma ray log, and the unit is, we have seen that the unit of the SP log is millivolts. But one important thing is that basically this log has no absolute values, only relative changes in the SP log are important. So we will see that how basically we use this SP log to calculate things, and what does this relative changes mean in the coming slide. But one thing you need to remember that it is used for the detection of permeable zone. It is not used for the quantification of the permeability. So you, from this tool, you can identify the permeable zone, but you cannot calculate how much permeable your zone is. So again, this log basically is used for the qualitative analysis for the detection of the permeable zone. These are 3 requirements for the existence of an SP current. The first requirement is that you should have a conductive borehole fluid, which means that you should have a water-based mud in the borehole. which means that this tool cannot run in oil based mud or in the aerated mud. So you should have a water based mud, a conductive borehole fluid. The second condition is that you should have a porous and permeable bed between the impermeable formation. And the third basically the condition is that you should have a difference of salinity between your mud and the formation fluids, which is water. So if you have the salinity difference, whether mud is higher saline as compared to formation water or low saline as compared to formation water, because for this current to generate, there should be ions movement, whether ions move from the formation water into the borehole or from the borehole into the formation. So ions movement should occur for the SP current to generate, and whenever you do not have any difference of salinity between the two, this SP current will not generate. So the third and important condition is that a difference of salinity should be there between your mud and the formation fluid. And basically generally what happens when two fluids of different salinity are comes in contact. For example, let's assume this is the one fluid which is represented by yellow color, and the second fluid which is represented by orange color. So the one fluid has low salinity and the other fluid has higher salinity. So ions will move from higher concentration to lower concentration. So both sodium and chloride ions would love to move from higher concentration to lower concentration, and this is called diffusion. So when two fluids of different concentration comes in contact, diffusion will occur and the ions will move from higher concentration to lower concentration. But chloride ions are more mobile as compared to sodium ions. So at a given time, more chloride ions will move from higher saline formation to low saline fluids. So this is basically the case when two fluids of different sodium chloride concentration comes in contact. Both sodium and chloride ions would love to move from higher concentration to lower concentration, but in a given time more chloride ions will migrate from high concentration to low concentration. So that will generate a potential, and this potential basically means that the low sodium chloride water will have the negative part because it has more chloride ions as compared to the high NaCl concentration fluid which has the more sodium plus ions. So a potential will develop after some time, and this potential will basically stop further movement of ion from this NaCl concentration to this NaCl concentration. So these are basically summary that assume that the formation fluid is more saline as compared to the mud filtrate for a moment, and that the only dissolved ion is in the system are sodium ion and the chloride ions as NaCl. The chloride ions have a higher mobility than the sodium ions. So when the two fluids comes in contact across the interface between the invaded and the non-invaded zone, diffusion will occur. Ions from the high salinity mud filtrate will diffuse into the invaded zone to try to balance the salinities out. The chloride ions are more mobile, and so more of them diffuse into the invaded zone than sodiums. The net result is the flow of the negative charge into the invaded zone, which sets up a charge imbalance called the diffusion potential. So this is basically the potential difference that has been developed by the migration of the chloride ions from the high sodium chloride concentration to low sodium chloride concentration, and this is called basically the diffusion potential. And as you can see that chloride ions will migrate more from the high saline zone to low saline zone, and basically this phenomena is occurring in the permeable and porous sandstone. So the diffusion potential, basically the potential that has been developed in the porous and the permeable formation, and we have seen that basically the potential has been developed because of the migration of the chloride ions, as they are more mobile as compared to sodium ions. Basically, a slightly different phenomena occur uh, against the shale zones. Basically, we have seen in the previous lectures that shale basically is composed of the sodium silicate layer, and in the presence of water, the shale dissociate into the sodium ions and negative silicate layers. These sodium ions in the shale are mobile, but the sodium silicate that basically is immobile, and it is the structure of the clay. So basically, shell acts as a selective barrier. So basically, whenever you have the shale, the sodium ions can easily pass, but the negative basically ions cannot pass because the shale structure is composed of the negative silicate layers. So same thing happens here when you have the two fluids, one in the wellbore, another in the formation, for example, and basically this two fluids are comes in contact in the against the shale formation, and since we know that shale cannot allow the chloride ions to pass through it, so chloride ions, although they are mobile, as we have seen that chloride ions are mobile and easily passed in the porous and permeable formation, but in the shale zone these chloride ions cannot pass because shale repel them. So sodium ions will move from the high concentration to low concentration because they can pass or diffuse easier, quicker as compared to chloride ions. So because of this migration of sodium ions, a positive charge will develop in the low salinity region, and the negative charge obviously will develop in the high salinity region. So against the shale zone, as you can see in this figure, sodium ions will move from the formation towards the wellbore. If the mud in the wellbore has low salinity as compared to the formation water, because shale only allows sodium ions to move. So against shale formation, as you can see in the top and the bottom shale zone, you have the positive charge build up in the wellbore because we have assumed that mud has low salinity. But against the permeable zone, you have the negative charge build up because chloride ions are more mobile, and sandstone basically is not a selective barrier. So against the permeable and porous formation, you have the natural diffusion that both sodium and chloride ions would love to move from high salinity region to low salinity region, and since chloride ions are mobile, they will move quicker as compared to sodium ions, so you will have the negative charge build up against the porous and permeable formation. So basically this is also written over here that this potential, which is called the membrane potential, so the potential that is developed against the shale zone is called the membrane potential. So the membrane potential exists at the junction between the non-invading zone and the shale. Shales have the property that they can retard the passage of anions. Again, this is related to the composition of the shale structure. Shale in the presence of water dissociates into positive sodium ions and the negative silicate layers, and that negative silicate layer does not allow chloride ions to pass through it. So shale act as a selective barrier, and this results in the shale being more positive than the non-invading zone, and hence there is an electric membrane potential which causes current to flow from the invaded zone into the shale. So basically this is also written over here that clay basically is a semi-permeable membrane which allow sodium ions to pass through it, and basically result in a current that generates at the junction of sand and shale, and basically this current is measured and this current is reported in terms of millivolt. So again, basically you can see that these are two electrodes, one is mobile, moving, another is fixed, and against the junction of the permeable and impermeable formation, you have the uh, development of the potential. One because of the migration of chloride ion, and other because of the migration of sodium ion. So negative positive charges have developed, and this causes the natural current to flow, and you have measured this flow of this natural current at the junction of between the two zones. So this is a very small current, that is why it is measured in millivolt. Basically again this figure shows the SP log values, and again basically you can see in the shale zone you have the line is basically is straight. It's not it's called the shale baseline, basically the line that is used as a reference. And basically you against the permeable formation, you have the deviation from this straight line, and the deviation is either on the right side, as you can see, against this permeable sand containing fresh water, or deviation is on the left side, as you can see, the permeable sand containing the salt water. So basically uh, against the permeable formation, you will have the deviation either on the positive side or the negative side, and whether you will have positive or negative, it depends on the difference of salinity between your mud and the formation water. Against this permeable sand, which has the salt water, which means the formation water in this sand is more saline as compared to the mud, the deflection is on the left side. And again, depending upon the difference of salinity, you have the higher deflection or the lower deflection. So against the permeable formation, you will have deflection, and the condition is that you should have a difference of salinity, whether it is on the left side, whether it is on the right side. The deflection will indicate that this zone is permeable zone, and we have seen that you cannot use the deflection to calculate the quantity of the permeability. Basically you can basically identify that these are permeable zone, but how much they are, you cannot identify. Basically you cannot calculate the total permeability from the SP log. So this detection of permeability should be used qualitatively for just for the identification that these zones are permeable zone, because against this zone you have the deflection, but the deflection will not help you in calculating the number of the permeability, that whether it is 10 millidarcy permeable zone or 100 millidarcy permeable zone. So you cannot calculate exactly the number of the permeability, that how much this zone is permeable. So SP log basically is an important log, and basically we have seen that because of the natural difference of salinity, you have the natural current development in the borehole that is being measured through this tool. Depending upon the difference of salinity between the mud and the formation fluid, you have the negative or the positive deflection, or no deflection at all. So if the mud and the formation water resistivity are same, which means that both fluids have the same resistivity or the salinity, which means you will not have any deflection. And obviously when you do not have any deflection, you will assume that this zone is impermeable, but this is not the case. This zone is permeable, but you do not see any deflection because there is no difference of salinity between your mud and the formation water. And when you have the saline mud, which means the resistivity of your mud filtrate is lower as compared to the formation water, you will have the positive deflection. And this is basically the most usual case, because generally your mud is fresh as compared to the formation water. So when your mud is fresh as compared to the formation water, the resistivity of the mud will be higher as compared to the formation water, and in this case you will have the negative deflection. So most of the time you will see negative deflection because your mud is fresh as compared to the formation water, which means the mud is less saline as compared to the formation water. Basically the formation water salinity ranges with depth. Generally shallower formation water has lower salinity as compared to the deep formation water reservoirs, and salinity can be as high as like 300,000 ppm. So the formation water can be very high saline, and obviously as you go with pressure and temperature and with depth, salinity increases. So generally shallower formations have generally this condition, that your saline mud, basically mud is more saline as compared to formation water, but generally in deep formation your mud basically is less saline as formation water, and you have the negative deflection. So whenever you do not see any deflection on the SP log, you should not jump to the conclusion that this is the impermeable zone. Maybe this is the permeable zone, and the possibility is that there is no salinity difference between the two fluids. So in reading the SP log, it is best to first define a shale baseline, and again the shale baseline is the shale response against the shale zone. So this is the typical SP level for shales and can be found by comparing the SP log with the gamma ray log response. We know that we can use gamma ray log to identify the shale zone, and against the shale zone we have the higher values of the gamma rays. So you use gamma ray along with this SP log to first identify the shale zones, and the SP values against that shale zone will act as a shale baseline for you. And we see that against the permeable formation you will have the deviation, and the deviation can be from on the left or the right side of this baseline, and we have seen that on the left or right depending upon the difference of salinity. The most general case is this one, when your mud is fresher as compared to saline mud. So most of the time you will have the negative deflection, but you can have the positive deflection also, or no deflection at all. And remember, we have seen that basically SP log should be used in terms of relative terms, and no absolute scale should be used. So that is why we make the baseline. So we will read the value of SP log from the baseline, that how much is the value of this zone against the baseline. We will be seeing this in the coming slide. To use the SP curve quantitatively, a value for the total potential drop around the circuit must be derived, and this is called the static spontaneous potential, and it is obtained directly from the SP log opposite a thick, clean, shale free 100% water bearing formation. The SSP is a value in millivolts of the difference between the SP log at the shale baseline and that in the center of the thick, clean formation. So SSP basically is the maximum value of the SP log in the given log section, and it is read against the maximum deviation of the SP log from the shale baseline. So you have a shale baseline. This is the line basically which is against the shale zone. So the maximum deviation from this shale baseline, which is generally occur against the 100% water bearing formation, which is thick, clean and shale free. So this is the SSP value, which is the maximum value of the SP log that you get in this particular log section. So basically this is the example where the different SP log responses are shown for different lithologies, and as you can see, against the shale you have the SP response which act as a baseline. So a baseline is drawn against the shale SP responses against the shale zones, and whenever you have a deviation, that will indicate that this zone is the permeable zone. So you can see against clean sand you have the deviation, against this silt, if it is permeable, you have the deflection. So whenever you have deflection, which means that this zone is permeable, and again we cannot determine exactly how much this zone is permeable, but we can say that this zone is permeable, this zone is permeable, this is the shaly sandstone, this is the clean sandstone, again this is the permeable zone. Shaly sand you have the permeability, so you have the deflection. Against this silt you have the deflection, against this silt and sand, clean clean sand. So whenever you have the permeability in the lithology, you will have a deflection on the SP log. So by seeing the deflection, you will say that this zone is the permeable zone. Again, if you have the information of the caliper and the bit size, you can also identify the permeable zone from there too. So this information will obviously supplement your already available information. So SSP is the maximum deflection you will have at any depth, at any particular depth. So against, you can see the clean sandstone, the thick clean sandstone that contains the water, that is free of shale, you will have the maximum deflection or the maximum deviation from the shale baseline, and that maximum deflection is called SSP. So you have the maximum deflection in this thick clean sandstone and this clean sandstone, and in other formation, thin formation or shaly sandstone, you do not have the full deflection. So the full deflection you have observed or you have found against this two clean sandstone. So these two sandstone would be 100% clean and contain the water. So how do we read SSP value? We will see in the coming slide. This example, you have been asked to identify the permeable zone using the SP log. So the logs have been provided to you, and from the log header you have to identify the logs, and in this log section the 4 tracks have been provided to you. In first track you have the caliper log and the DRHO, and we have seen the density correction log. In the second track you have been provided the gamma ray, SP and the PEF log. In the third track you have been provided the resistivity log, and in the fourth track you have been provided the bulk density and the neutron porosity. And neutron porosity unit is from 50% to 0%, and you can see in this the neutron porosity has been provided in SS, this sandstone unit. So again, the logger have chosen the lithology sandstone in this particular log section, but we have seen that in when we were studying the neutron porosity log, we have seen that most of the time neutron log is reported in the limestone unit, but again it depends from logger to logger. So in this case, the neutron porosity has been reported in sandstone unit. So again, obviously, if you find out that these zones are not sandstone, so you will convert the sandstone into limestone or dolomite something. But again, we will not be using neutron porosity and bulk density or resistivity or PEF or gamma ray for right now. We will be using only the SP log, because we have been asked to identify the permeable zones through the SP log. So we identify that in track number 2 we have been provided the SP log, and the unit and the scale of the SP log is from -100 millivolt to +100 millivolt, which means in between you will have some 0 millivolt. And as you can see that the SP log is provided or plotted with the gamma ray log. So gamma ray is provided, and the scale is from 0 to 100 API, and we know that when gamma ray is very high, it indicates that this zone is the shale or the shaly zone, and when the gamma ray is low, which means that this zone is less shaly or the sandstone or the shaly sandstone. So from the gamma ray response we can see that from the top section till 8790 feet we have the shale zone, and from 8790 till the bottom section we have the non-shaly zone. And we know that before using the SP log we need to make the shale baseline. So shale baseline basically is drawn in the SP log by basically comparing the SP responses with the gamma ray responses. So basically SP log is very useful log to confirm the permeable zone detection by the caliper hole size measurement method. In the absence of caliper bit size data, the SP log becomes very important in identifying the permeable zone. and the use of SP log starts with the establishing the shale baseline, and shale baseline is the SP log response against the shale zone. So you first draw a shale baseline, and shale baseline is the line against the shale zone. So this is the shale baseline because this is the SP response against the shale. And how do we have identified that this is the response against the shale? Because in this zone we have the higher gamma ray value. Obviously you can also identify whether it is shale or not through the resistivity curves. We haven't seen yet, but once we have studied the resistivity log, we will see that when the three resistivity curves are overlapping, that also indicates that this zone is in shale zone. So in this section, in the top section, basically when you have the high gamma ray, the three resistivity curves are overlapping. So this is another indication that this zone is the shale zone. So this SP response basically is against the shale and will be our shale baseline. And once we have identified the shale baseline, any deviation from the shale baseline will indicate the permeable zone. So all the basically deviation, so this deviation, this deviation, this deviation, the all deviation, whether it's small or large, all deviations from the shale baseline will indicate that these zones are permeable zones, as we have seen in this log. So first we draw a shale baseline, and shale baseline basically against the shale zones. So SP responses against the shale zones first need to be identified, and obviously we can take help of other logs for drawing the shale baseline. So against shale we have the high gamma ray value, and we have the overlapping of the resistivity log. So when we have the overlapping of resistivity value and the high gamma ray value, basically these zones are the shale zones, and SP response against those shale zones will be act as a baseline. So we have connected the responses against the shale zone and draw a line, that is shale baseline, and we have done the similar thing over here, that against the maximum gamma ray value and overlapping of this resistivity log, we have basically drawn a line, that is the shale baseline. So any deviation from this shale baseline will indicate a permeable zone. A slight deviation will also indicate that this zone is permeable. So similarly we will see that all zones which have the deviation, whether it's on the left or right side, in this case we have the deviation on the left side, we do not have any deviation on the right side. So all deviations will indicate that these zones are permeable zone. So basically basically all zones which have deviations are the permeable zone. So the bottom section has large deviation from the shale baseline, so this zone is obviously cleaner, and obviously it's the permeable zone. But in the top section where you have the higher gamma ray values, even in the higher gamma ray values you have some deviations, some zones which has the lower gamma ray value. So these zones can also has the permeability. But again, these zones are not so reliable because the density correction values are very large, which showing that basically you have the some problem in this zone. But again, basically since we are using only the SP log, we will say that these zones are also permeable zones. So all zones which have slight or larger deviation from the shale baseline basically are the permeable zone. And basically I have basically shown that from top section to 8790 the zone is impermeable, and from 87902 till bottom you have the permeable zone. So I have basically said because of the large separation between the SP value with the shale baseline, so this zone, the bottom zone, has the large deviation from the shale baseline, so this is obvious permeable zone. And these zones have lower deviation and also have higher gamma ray values. So because of the higher gamma ray values and low deviation, I have called these zones as impermeable zone. So but again, it's up to you. Any small deviation from the shale baseline will indicate that these zones are permeable. So even you have the higher gamma ray values and small deviation, so this zone is also permeable. So this zone basically which has higher gamma ray value and some deviation with the shale baseline, this zone is also permeable. So in general, there are two zones, one is impermeable, another is permeable, but within the impermeable zone there are some zones which are permeable, and we have seen basically with the deviation of SV log with the shale baseline.